The council chamber on Sanctum Prime was the largest room Lisa Monroe had ever seen. The ceiling stretched so high above her head that she could barely see it through the dim blue light. All around her, aliens from 47 different worlds sat in their designated sections. Some looked like insects with too many legs. Others floated in tanks of liquid. A few resembled nothing she could even describe. Lisa stood straight in her dark blue uniform, the Earth symbol patch visible on her shoulder. Beside her, Colonel Jake Patterson kept his hand near his sidearm, though weapons were supposedly forbidden here. His jaw was tight, his eyes scanning the room like he expected an attack at any moment. Ambassador Monroe, the translator device in her ear, crackled. The council recognizes Earth. She stepped forward to the speaking platform, her shoes clicking on the smooth stone floor. Thousands of alien eyes watched her. Some of those eyes glowed. Some had no eyes at all but still somehow stared. "Thank you, High Chancellor," Lisa said, keeping her voice calm and professional. She had practiced this moment 100 times. Earth had only been part of the galactic community for 15 years. They were still the newcomers, still the primitives who had barely learned to travel between stars. High Chancellor Vexthor of the Zrathi Imperium sat on the highest platform in the chamber. The Zrathi looked almost human from a distance, but up close their skin had a gray, scaly texture, and their eyes were completely black. Vexthor was old, perhaps 300 years by Earth standards, and he ruled the council with absolute authority. "Ambassador Monroe," Vexthor said, his voice cold, "we have not called you here for pleasantries. The Zrathi Imperium has brought serious charges against your species." Lisa felt her stomach tighten, but she kept her face neutral. "Charges? What charges?" Vexthor pressed a control on his chair. Suddenly, holographic images filled the air above the council floor. Lisa saw what looked like weapons factories, research facilities, and military installations. The images were labeled with Earth locations she recognized. "For the past 8 years," Vexthor announced, "humanity has been secretly developing weapons in violation of the Sanctuary Accords. You have built prohibited technology. You have lied to this council. You have proven yourselves to be a threat to galactic peace." Jake leaned close to Lisa and whispered, "Those images are fake. Half those facilities don't even exist." Lisa knew he was right. She had seen fabricated evidence before in her career as a diplomat. But looking around the chamber, she could see that many of the other species believed what they were seeing. Fear showed on their faces, or whatever passed for faces among the different aliens. "High Chancellor," Lisa said firmly, "these accusations are false. Earth has followed every rule, every regulation. We have submitted to inspections. We have been completely transparent about our defensive capabilities." "Transparent?" Vexthor's laugh was harsh. "You expect us to believe that a species as violent and aggressive as humanity has suddenly become peaceful? Your own history shows centuries of war, genocide, and destruction. You fought wars over resources, over ideas, over lines drawn on maps, and now you want us to trust you?" Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Lisa felt anger rising in her chest, but she forced it down. Getting emotional would only make things worse. Every species has a violent past, she argued. The Zrathi themselves fought the unification wars that killed billions. The Vryn enslaved half their planet before achieving democracy. Growth and change are possible, High Chancellor. Humanity has changed, perhaps, Vexthor said. Or perhaps you have simply learned to hide your true nature. He looked around at the other council members. The evidence is clear. Humanity poses a threat not just to one species but to all of us. I move that the council authorize a preventive intervention. Lisa's blood ran cold. A preventive intervention was the galactic term for an invasion. It meant warships, orbital bombardment, and forced disarmament. It meant the end of Earth's independence and possibly the end of humanity itself. You can't be serious, Jake said, stepping forward despite protocol. You're talking about attacking our homeworld based on faked evidence? The evidence has been verified by our intelligence services, Vexthor said dismissively. And this council has the authority to act when a species threatens galactic security. All in favor of authorizing intervention? Lisa watched in horror as platform after platform lit up with affirmative votes. Some species voted quickly as if they had already made up their minds. Others hesitated but followed the majority. A few voted against the measure, but they were too few to matter. The final count appeared on the main display. 23 species in favor, 18 against, 6 abstaining. The measure passes, Vexthor announced. A coalition fleet will be assembled. Earth has 72 hours to evacuate its population from the planet. After that time, intervention forces will arrive to dismantle your military capability and ensure compliance with galactic law. 72 hours? Lisa couldn't keep the shock from her voice. That's impossible. We have 8 billion people on Earth. We can't evacuate everyone in 3 days. Then I suggest you prioritize, Vexthor said coldly. This session is concluded. The chamber erupted into noise as different species began talking among themselves. Lisa stood frozen for a moment, unable to believe what had just happened. 15 years of careful diplomacy wiped away in minutes. Jake grabbed her arm. We need to leave, now. They pushed through the crowd of aliens toward the exit. Lisa's mind was racing. This was planned, she realized. The Zrathi had orchestrated this from the beginning. The fake evidence, the rushed vote, the impossibly short deadline. They wanted to destroy Earth, and they had just gotten permission to do it. As they reached the corridor outside the chamber, a figure stepped from the shadows. It was Ambassador Kelvax, another Zrathi and one of Vexthor's closest advisors. He smiled at them, showing too many teeth. A shame about your planet, Ambassador Monroe, Kelvax said. His translator made his voice sound almost sympathetic, but his black eyes showed only satisfaction. But humanity was always going to be a problem. Better to deal with you now while you're still weak. This is murder, Lisa said quietly. You know we can't evacuate 8 billion people. Of course we know, Kelvax said, no longer pretending to be sympathetic. The point isn't to save your people. The point is to eliminate a threat before it grows too large. Your species learns too quickly, adapts too well. In another century, you might actually be dangerous. We can't allow that. Jake's hand moved toward his weapon, but Lisa stopped him with a look. Starting a fight here would only make things worse. You're making a mistake, Lisa told Kelvax. Humanity isn't as helpless as you think, Kelvax laughed. Really, what does Earth have? 12 orbital platforms? 40 ships. We're bringing 3,000 warships from a dozen different species. Your entire fleet will be dust in the first hour. He leaned closer. You primitives don't understand how outmatched you are. This isn't a war. It's an extermination. He walked away, still laughing. Jake looked ready to chase after him, but Lisa pulled him toward their ship. Come on, she said. We need to warn Earth. Their ship, a small diplomatic courier, was waiting in the docking bay. They ran aboard, and Jake immediately headed for the pilot's seat. Lisa strapped in beside him as the engines powered up. How fast can we get home? Lisa asked. If I push the hyperdrive to maximum, 36 hours, Jake said, his fingers flying over the controls. But that'll burn out half our systems. Do it. Earth needs every second we can give them. The ship launched from the docking bay and accelerated away from Sanctum Prime. Within minutes, they jumped to hyperspace, the stars stretching into lines of light around them. Lisa pulled out her communicator and opened an encrypted channel to Earth. It took several minutes for the connection to establish across the vast distance. This is Ambassador Monroe, she said as soon as the link opened. Emergency priority. I need to speak with President Garrett immediately. There was a pause, then a familiar voice came through. Lisa, this is Nicole. What's wrong? President Nicole Garrett had been Lisa's friend for 20 years, long before either of them had entered politics. Hearing her voice now, Lisa felt some of the tension ease from her shoulders. Nicole, we have a situation, Lisa said, then explained everything that had happened in the council chamber. The fake evidence, the rushed vote, the 3,000 ships that would arrive at Earth in 3 days. When she finished, there was a long silence on the other end. 3,000 ships, Nicole finally said. Her voice was calm, but Lisa could hear the steel underneath. And 72 hours. I'm sorry, Lisa said. I tried to stop them, but you did everything right, Nicole interrupted. This isn't your fault. The Zrathi have been planning this for years, Lisa. We knew something like this was possible. Lisa blinked. What do you mean you knew? Get back to Earth as fast as you can, Nicole said. We have a lot to discuss, and Lisa, don't worry too much about those 3,000 ships. Earth has some surprises of our own. The connection ended, leaving Lisa staring at the communicator in confusion. Jake glanced over at her from the pilot's seat. Did she just sound confident? He asked. Yeah, Lisa said slowly. She did. The war room buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains had been built for exactly this moment. President Nicole Garrett stood at the head of a long table, her hands pressed flat against its surface. Around her sat the most important people in Earth's military and scientific community. Admiral Kevin Ross commanded Earth's defense forces. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. Next to him sat General Amy Crawford, head of strategic operations. Her dark skin and sharp features made her look stern, but everyone who worked with her knew she had a brilliant mind for tactics. Dr. Ryan Hughes sat across from them. He was younger than the others, only 45, and he ran the Advanced Weapons Division. His messy hair and casual clothes made him look like a university professor, not the man in charge of Earth's most dangerous secrets. At the end of the table sat Danny Chen, the youngest person in the room at just 32 years old. He was a tactical analyst, and despite his youth, everyone respected his ideas. Danny had been studying alien military tactics since first contact, preparing for a war that everyone hoped would never come. "Let me make sure I understand," Nicole said, looking at each person in turn. "An alien fleet of 3,000 ships will arrive at Earth in about 70 hours. They plan to destroy our orbital defenses and then bombard the planet until we surrender. Is that correct?" "Yes, Madam President," Kevin confirmed. His voice was deep and steady. "Our intelligence suggests the fleet will be led by the Zrathi, but it includes ships from at least 11 other species." "And what does the public know about our defensive capabilities?" Nicole asked. "Exactly what we've told the galaxy," Amy said. 12 orbital platforms, 40 cruisers, and approximately 80 fighters. Against 3,000 enemy ships, we appear completely outmatched. Nicole smiled slightly. "Appear is the key word, isn't it?" Ryan leaned forward, his eyes bright with something that looked almost like excitement. "Madam President, we've been preparing for this possibility since the day we made first contact with the Zrathi. Everything we've shown the galaxy has been theater. Our real capabilities are far beyond what they expect." "Show me," Nicole said. Danny stood and activated the holographic display in the center of the table. A three-dimensional image of the solar system appeared, floating in the air. Blue dots marked Earth's known defenses. Then Danny pressed another control, and the display changed dramatically. Hundreds of new red dots appeared throughout the solar system. They clustered around the moon, the asteroid belt, Mars, and even some of the outer planets. "What am I looking at?" Nicole asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Our actual defensive network," Danny explained. "For the past 15 years, while we've been building our public fleet, we've also been constructing a secret military force. We used automated factories on the dark side of the moon, hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt, and construction facilities disguised as mining operations." He zoomed in on the moon. The display showed massive structures built into craters and underground caverns. "We have 3 major shipyards here, producing vessels using technology we've developed in secret. We've taken alien designs and improved them, using human engineering and manufacturing techniques that are more efficient than what the galaxy uses." "How many ships?" Nicole asked. 412 combat vessels, Kevin said. "Most of them are cruiser class or larger. We also have over 800 fighters and 2,000 automated drones." Nicole felt her breath catch. 400 ships? How did we keep this secret?" "Compartmentalization," Amy explained. "Each facility operates independently. Most workers don't know what they're building or where it goes. Only a few dozen people know the full scope of our capabilities. And we've been very careful to make sure no alien observers ever see our hidden facilities." Ryan brought up another display, this one showing weapon systems. "We've also developed technologies the galaxy has never seen. The Zrathi and their allies use energy shields and plasma weapons almost exclusively. They've been fighting the same way for centuries. But Earth took a different approach. The hologram showed a long, sleek weapon that looked like a cannon. This is a railgun," Ryan continued. "It uses electromagnetic force to fire solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. We've built versions that can launch a projectile at 15% of light speed. At that velocity, no shield in the galaxy can stop it. The kinetic energy alone will tear through a ship's hull like paper." "Kinetic weapons," Nicole said thoughtfully. "I remember reading about those in the early defense reports. The galaxy doesn't use them because they consider them primitive." "Exactly," Ryan said with a grin. "They think energy weapons are more advanced, more civilized. They're wrong. A solid object moving at relativistic speeds carries more destructive power than any plasma cannon. And because no one uses kinetic weapons, no one has defenses against them. Danny pulled up more information. We've also developed advanced cyber warfare capabilities. Alien computer systems are sophisticated, but they weren't designed to defend against human hacking techniques. We've created viruses that can infiltrate their networks, jam their communications, and even take control of their systems. And the solar defense grid? Nicole asked. Amy stood and walked to the holographic display. She highlighted hundreds of small objects scattered throughout the inner solar system. These are what the galaxy thinks are mining stations, research satellites, and communication relays. In reality, each one is a weapons platform. They're automated, hardened against attack, and equipped with missiles, railguns, and electronic warfare systems. She manipulated the display, showing how the platforms created overlapping fields of fire throughout Earth's orbital space. Any ship entering the solar system will be tracked by multiple platforms. We can engage targets from any angle at any range. And because the platforms are automated, we don't risk human lives operating them. Nicole studied the display for a long moment. The sheer scale of what her military had built was overwhelming. But one question still bothered her. Why? She asked. Why did we do all this? We've spent trillions of dollars, worked in secret for 15 years, all to prepare for a war that might never happen. Why did we think it was necessary? Kevin and Amy exchanged glances. Finally, Kevin spoke. Because we studied the Zrathi, Madam President. We studied their history, their culture, their pattern of behavior, and we realized something troubling. Every time the Zrathi encounter a species with potential, a species that might one day rival their power, that species disappears. Disappears? Nicole felt a chill run down her spine. The galaxy has records of first contact with 17 different species over the past 2,000 years, Danny explained, pulling up historical data. 12 of those species were classified as high potential by the Zrathi's own assessment. Within 50 years of first contact, all 12 had suffered catastrophic setbacks. Rebellions, plagues, civil wars. Their populations crashed, their technology regressed. They never recovered. You think the Zrathi caused those disasters? We're certain of it, Amy said. The pattern is too consistent. The Zrathi see themselves as the natural rulers of the galaxy. They maintain their position by ensuring no other species can challenge them. When they met humanity and saw how quickly we learn, how adaptable we are, they immediately began planning our elimination. We knew this day would come, Kevin continued. We just didn't know when or how. So we prepared. We built our secret fleet, developed our weapons, and trained our forces, all while pretending to be weak, primitive, harmless. Nicole looked around at her advisors. These people had carried this burden for years, knowing that war was coming and preparing for it in silence. She felt a surge of pride mixed with sadness. How many people are involved in this secret defense network? She asked. Approximately 200,000, Ryan said. Military personnel, scientists, engineers, construction workers. All of them have been carefully vetted and understand the importance of secrecy. And you're confident we can win against 3,000 ships? Win? Danny said quietly. Madam President, we're not trying to just win. We're trying to make sure no one ever threatens Earth again. A door at the back of the room opened. Lisa Monroe and Jake Patterson entered, looking exhausted from their rushed journey back from Sanctum Prime. Lisa's uniform was wrinkled, and Jake had dark circles under his eyes. Madam President, Lisa said formally, then her composure cracked slightly. Nicole, what's going on? You said Earth has surprises. What surprises? Nicole gestured to the holographic display still floating above the table. Lisa, Jake, welcome home. Take a look at what we've been building. For the next hour, Kevin, Amy, Ryan, and Danny explained everything to the two newcomers. Lisa and Jake listened in stunned silence, occasionally asking questions but mostly just absorbing the massive amount of information. When the briefing finally ended, Lisa sat down heavily in a chair. I can't believe it, she said. All this time while I was at the council trying to convince them we were peaceful, we were actually preparing for war. We are peaceful, Nicole corrected her gently. But we're not helpless. There's a difference. The Zrathi mistook our desire for peace as weakness. They're about to learn otherwise. Supreme Commander Thackrell stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Starpiercer, and watched the blue-green planet growing larger on the view screen. Earth looked peaceful from this distance, almost beautiful. It was hard to believe such a primitive world had caused so much concern. The bridge around him buzzed with activity. Junior officers monitored sensors and communications, while the ship's crew prepared weapons systems. Behind Thackrell, other Zarathi commanders stood at attention waiting for orders. "Status report," Thackrell commanded. "All ships have entered the solar system, Commander," one officer replied. 3,000 vessels in total. The coalition fleet includes forces from the Zarathi Imperium, the Vryn Collective, the Hresh Dominion, and 8 other species. "We are maintaining formation as planned." Thackrell nodded with satisfaction. This was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Against Earth's pathetic defenses, it was massive overkill. But the Council had authorized overwhelming force, and Thackrell intended to follow orders precisely. "What is Earth's response?" he asked. Another officer checked his displays. "We're receiving panicked transmissions from the planet's surface and orbital stations. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, begging for more time to evacuate. Their fleet of 40 ships has moved into defensive positions near the planet. The orbital platforms are activating weapons but appear disorganized. They're afraid," Captain Sorakel of the Vryn said from her position beside Thackrell. Her blue-scaled face showed amusement. "As they should be. This will be over quickly." Thackrell studied the tactical display. Earth's ships looked tiny compared to his fleet. 40 vessels against 3,000. It wasn't even a fair fight. Part of him almost felt disappointed. He had hoped for at least some challenge. "Open a channel to all ships," Thackrell ordered. "Prepare to advance. We'll move in 3 waves. First wave will destroy the orbital platforms. Second wave will engage their fleet. Third wave will establish orbital bombardment positions." "Commander," the communications officer interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's from their president." "Put it on screen." President Nicole Garrett's face appeared on the view screen. She looked tired and stressed, exactly as Thackrell expected. "Supreme Commander Thackrell," Nicole said, her voice shaking slightly. "Please, we need more time. We're trying to evacuate civilians, but we can't possibly move everyone in 72 hours. Give us 1 more week." "Just 1 week." "Your time is up, President Garrett," Thackrell replied coldly. "You have violated galactic law. You have built prohibited weapons. The Council has authorized intervention, and intervention is what you will receive. Surrender your fleet immediately, and casualties will be minimized." "We have no prohibited weapons," Nicole insisted. "The evidence against us was fabricated. If you attack, you'll be committing genocide based on lies." "We have all the evidence we need," Thackrell said. "Your species is dangerous, President Garrett. You learn too quickly, adapt too well. The galaxy cannot risk allowing humanity to grow stronger. This is nothing personal. It is simply necessary." He cut the transmission without waiting for a response. Around him, his officers prepared for the attack. "All ships, advance," Thackrell commanded. The massive fleet began moving forward, accelerating toward Earth. The formation was precise, with capital ships in the center and smaller vessels forming protective screens on the flanks. Thackrell felt a surge of pride watching his fleet move. This was the might of the galactic community united in purpose. "We're approaching weapons range," the tactical officer announced. "Earth's platforms are powering up defensive shields. Their ships are moving to intercept." "First wave, engage the platforms," Thackrell ordered. 600 ships broke from the main formation and accelerated ahead. Their plasma cannons charged, preparing to reduce Earth's defenses to slag. On Earth's surface, deep in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Kevin Ross watched his displays with cold focus. Around him, dozens of officers monitored every ship in the alien fleet, tracking their movements and dispositions. "They're moving exactly as Danny predicted," Amy Crawford said from her station, overconfident and following standard Zarathi doctrine. Danny Chen sat at his console, his fingers flying over controls as he coordinated the defense. "First wave is 600 ships targeting our public platforms. Second wave is 900 ships moving to engage our visible fleet. The remaining 1,500 are holding back for orbital bombardment." "Perfect," Kevin said quietly. He activated his communications link. "All hidden forces, this is Central Command. Maintain stealth protocols until my signal. Let them get close. Let them commit." Throughout the solar system, 400 Earth warships waited in silence. They were hidden behind moons, disguised as asteroids, or masked by advanced stealth technology. None of them appeared on alien sensors. To the Zarathi, space appeared empty except for Earth's token defenses. The alien first wave reached the orbital platforms and opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked through space, slamming into the platform's shields. The platforms returned fire, but their shots seemed poorly aimed, missing most targets. Earth's defenses are even weaker than expected, Sorakel observed with satisfaction. This is pathetic, Thackrell frowned slightly. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't identify what. Earth's platforms were firing wildly, their shots missing by wide margins. It looked like panic, but it also seemed almost deliberate. Second wave. Engage their fleet, he ordered, pushing aside his concerns. 900 alien ships surged forward, targeting Earth's 40 visible cruisers. The Earth ships turned and began firing, their weapons flashing as they tried desperately to hold their defensive line. Now, Kevin Ross said calmly, light them up. Throughout the solar system, Earth's hidden forces activated simultaneously. Behind the moon, 3 massive shipyards that had appeared to be simple mining operations suddenly opened. Warships poured out, their railguns already charging. The moon itself began rotating, revealing weapons batteries built into the dark side that the aliens had never seen. In the asteroid belt, hundreds of objects that sensors had identified as simple rocks suddenly activated engines and weapons. They weren't asteroids at all. They were camouflaged warships, and they had been drifting into position for days. Near Mars, what appeared to be civilian refugee ships suddenly dropped their disguises. They were mobile weapons platforms, and they had spent the past hour maneuvering into flanking positions. And everywhere throughout Earth's orbital space, satellites and stations that the aliens thought were harmless suddenly revealed hidden weapons. Missiles launched. Railguns fired. The entire solar system had become a trap, and the aliens had walked right into it. What's happening? Thackrell shouted as alarm suddenly blared across his bridge. Where did all these ships come from? Commander, we're detecting hundreds of new contacts, his tactical officer said, his voice rising with panic. No, thousands of contacts. They're all around us. It's an ambush. The first salvo from Earth's railguns arrived with devastating effect. Unlike plasma weapons that traveled at the speed of light and could be seen coming, the railgun projectiles moved at 15% of light speed. By the time sensors detected them, it was far too late to dodge. Solid metal slugs weighing several tons each slammed into alien ships with the force of nuclear weapons. Shields designed to disperse energy couldn't stop solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The projectiles punched through shields like they weren't there, tore through hull plating, and ripped ships apart from the inside. In the first 30 seconds, 200 alien vessels were destroyed. In the first minute, that number doubled. Impossible! Sorakel gasped, staring at the tactical display in horror. They were supposed to have 40 ships. Where did 400 come from? Thackrell watched his carefully planned formation dissolve into chaos. His ships were scattering, trying to find cover that didn't exist. Earth's vessels seemed to be everywhere at once, firing those devastating kinetic weapons from unexpected angles. All ships, reform defensive positions, Thackrell ordered, trying to regain control. Focus fire on the Earth vessels. Concentrate your attacks, but his ships couldn't concentrate. Earth's tactics were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Instead of forming traditional battle lines, the human ships darted in and out of cover, using moons and planets and even their own destroyed vessels as shields. They fired, then disappeared before return fire could reach them, and the railguns kept firing. Jake Patterson piloted his ship, the Defiant, through the chaos of battle with calm precision. Around him, 5 other Earth cruisers formed his squadron. They had trained for this moment for years. Target the carrier group at Mark 37, Jake ordered. Alpha pattern on my signal. His squadron dove toward a formation of Zrathi carriers, massive ships designed to launch fighter craft. The carriers' shields glowed as they tried to track the incoming Earth ships, but Jake's squadron was too fast, too maneuverable. Now, Jake said. 6 railguns fired simultaneously. 6 metal slugs struck 6 different carriers within the same second. The carriers' shields failed, their hulls ruptured, and atmosphere vented into space along with hundreds of crew members. Break and scatter, Jake ordered. His squadron split apart just as return. The battle continued for hours after Supreme Commander Thackrell's surrender. While the Starpiercer had given up, many other alien ships kept fighting. Some commanders refused to believe they were losing. Others fought out of desperation, knowing they might face punishment at home for their failure. Admiral Kevin Ross coordinated Earth's forces from the command center, his eyes moving constantly between different tactical displays. Each screen showed a different part of the solar system where fighting still raged. Status on the HFY fleet near Jupiter? Kevin asked. Danny Chen pulled up the relevant display. General Amy is engaging them now. The HFY commander is attempting to use Jupiter's gravity well for cover. But Amy predicted that move. She positioned 3 squadrons on the far side of the planet yesterday. On another screen, Amy Crawford's voice came through clearly despite the battle noise in the background. All units converge on my mark. Don't let them escape into the upper atmosphere. If they try to hide in Jupiter's storms, we'll have a hell of a time digging them out. Her ships moved in perfect coordination, cutting off the HFY fleet's escape routes. The HFY vessels were large and powerful, designed for long-range bombardment. But in close combat, surrounded by faster Earth ships, they were helpless. HFY flagship is signaling surrender, Amy reported a few minutes later. The rest of their fleet is following suit. That's another 100 ships down. Kevin marked them on his master display. Of the 3,000 ships that had entered the solar system, fewer than 800 were still combat capable. The rest were destroyed, disabled, or had already surrendered. We need to finish this, Kevin said. Every minute we fight, more people die on both sides. Danny, where are the holdouts concentrating? Danny highlighted several areas on the main display. The Vryn still have about 200 ships fighting near Mars. The Zarathi remnants are scattered throughout the asteroid belt, trying to regroup. And there's a Krell battle group near Saturn that's refusing all communication. The Krell are problematic, Dr. Ryan Hughes said from his station. He had been monitoring the various alien species' fighting styles. Their culture values death in battle over surrender. They'll fight to the last ship. Then we need to give them a reason to stop fighting, Kevin said. He opened a communication channel. Jake, are you available for a special mission? Jake Patterson's face appeared on the screen. His uniform was torn and he had a fresh cut above his eye, but he was grinning. Always ready, Admiral. What do you need? The Krell battle group near Saturn. I need them neutralized, but I'd prefer to capture them if possible. They're good warriors just following bad orders. Think you can handle it? Give me 12 ships in 30 minutes, Jake said confidently. Kevin assigned him the ships and watched as Jake's squadron broke away from the main battle, accelerating toward Saturn. Jake was one of their best tactical pilots, someone who could think creatively in the middle of combat. Lisa Monroe stood beside Kevin, watching the displays with a mix of horror and fascination. She had spent years as a diplomat, trying to prevent war through conversation and compromise. Seeing the reality of combat was shocking, even when Earth was winning. So many ships destroyed, Lisa said quietly. So many lives lost. Yes, Kevin agreed. War is always terrible even when necessary. But remember, they came here to exterminate humanity. We're defending our home. I know, Lisa said. But I keep thinking about the crews on those ships. Most of them probably didn't want this war. They were following orders from leaders who lied to them. Kevin looked at her with understanding. You're right. That's why we're accepting surrenders and treating prisoners well. The Zarathi leadership is responsible for this, not every individual soldier. When this is over, we'll make sure the galaxy understands that distinction. On another part of the battlefield near Mars, Amy Crawford was finishing her engagement with the Vryn fleet. The Vryn had fought well, using sophisticated tactics and coordinated attacks, but they were trained for traditional space combat, fighting according to rules and conventions that had developed over centuries. Earth didn't follow those rules. Deploy the drones, Amy ordered. 2,000 automated combat drones launched from hidden carriers. Each drone was small, fast, and equipped with a single powerful warhead. They weren't designed to survive combat. They were designed to overwhelm enemy defenses through sheer numbers. The Vryn ships tried to shoot down the incoming drones, but there were too many. For every drone they destroyed, 5 more got through. The drones swarmed the Vryn vessels, attaching to their hulls and detonating simultaneously. Explosions rippled across the Vryn formation. Shields failed. Hulls breached. Ships that had survived the earlier fighting were crippled in seconds. Vryn flagship is hailing us, Amy's communications officer reported. Captain Sorakel appeared on the screen. Her blue scales were dulled with stress and her ship's bridge showed clear damage. General Crawford, I am authorized to surrender what remains of the Vryn fleet. We cannot withstand these tactics. Your forces fight without honor. Honor is for duels between equals, Amy replied coldly. You came here to commit genocide. There is no honor in that. Now, will you surrender or do I need to send more drones? Sorakel's expression showed defeat. We surrender. Please, no more drones. Lower your shields and power down your weapons, Amy instructed. My ships will escort you to a holding area. Any vessel that tries to escape or reactivate weapons will be destroyed immediately. Understood? Understood, Sorakel said quietly. Amy watched as the Vryn ships complied. Another 200 enemy vessels neutralized. The alien fleet was collapsing faster than she had expected. The Zrathi had assembled a massive force, but they had never trained to fight together effectively. Each species had its own tactics, its own chain of command. When the battle turned against them, that lack of unity became a fatal weakness. Near Saturn, Jake Patterson approached the Krell battle group carefully. The Krell were known as fierce warriors, a species that had conquered half a dozen worlds through pure military might. Their ships were heavily armored and carried powerful weapons. Krell warship, this is Commander Jake Patterson of Earth Defense Forces. Jake transmitted. Your fleet has been defeated. Supreme Commander Thackrell has surrendered. The battle is over. You can surrender with honor. The Krell commander's response was harsh and immediate. We do not surrender. We fight until victory or death. Come and face us, human, Jake sighed. He had expected that response. Danny, you getting this? Back in the command center, Danny Chen nodded. Yeah, I heard. Sending you the tactical data now. The Krell have 48 ships in tight formation. They're good at defensive fighting, but not very mobile. Perfect, Jake said, studying the data Danny had sent. I have an idea. He positioned his 12 ships in a wide circle around the Krell formation, staying just outside their weapons range. Then he began moving, slowly orbiting the Krell position while maintaining distance. What are you doing? The Krell commander demanded. Fight us! I am fighting you, Jake replied. Just not the way you expect. For the next 20 minutes, Jake's ships circled the Krell formation, occasionally firing long-range shots that the Krell easily blocked. It seemed pointless, almost cowardly. The Krell commander grew increasingly frustrated, demanding Jake face them directly. But Jake wasn't trying to damage the Krell ships. He was maneuvering them into position. Danny, are they where we need them? Jake asked. Danny checked the coordinates. Perfect positioning. You're clear to proceed, Jake smiled. All ships break formation and retreat. Maximum speed. His 12 ships suddenly accelerated away from the Krell, racing toward the outer solar system. The Krell commander, seeing what looked like cowardice, ordered his fleet to pursue. Run, humans. The Krell commander laughed. Your tricks won't save you. The Krell ships accelerated after Jake's squadron, leaving their defensive formation. They were so focused on the chase that they didn't notice where Jake was leading them, directly into the middle of a minefield. The mines had been deployed days earlier, disguised as space debris. They were passive systems, undetectable until activated, and Jake had just led the Krell fleet right through them. Activate mines, Jake ordered. All around the Krell formation, hundreds of mines suddenly powered up. Proximity sensors detected the Krell ships and detonated. The explosions weren't large enough to destroy the heavily armored vessels, but they didn't need to be. The mines were EMP weapons designed to disable electronics. The Krell ships went dark. Power systems failed. Communications went silent. Weapons offline. Within seconds, the entire battle group was adrift in space, completely helpless. Jake's ships circled back, now facing no resistance. He opened a channel to the Krell flagship. Krell commander, your ships are disabled but intact. Your crews are safe. You fought well, but the battle is over. We will tow your vessels to a secure location and provide life support. Will you accept this? There was a long pause before the Krell commander responded. His voice was filled with frustration, but also a grudging respect. You fought like a warrior should, using cunning and strategy. We accept your terms, human. Kevin watched Jake's success on his displays and allowed himself a small smile. That was the last major resistance group. The battle for Earth was... 1 week after the battle, Lisa Monroe stood in a temporary conference room aboard a neutral space station called Unity Point. The station orbited between Earth and the closest alien world, making it perfect for diplomatic meetings. Around her, holographic representatives from 30 different species flickered in their designated positions. This was the emergency session of the Galactic Council, called to address what everyone was calling the Earth incident. Lisa had spent the past 7 days preparing for this moment, gathering evidence, coordinating with allies, and planning her strategy. The council chamber felt different than the last time she had stood here. Before, she had been a supplicant, begging for mercy that never came. Now she was addressing a council that had seen Earth destroy the largest invasion fleet in galactic history. The council recognizes Ambassador Monroe of Earth, the moderator announced. The Zrathi no longer controlled the council. High Chancellor Vexthor had been removed from power, and a neutral mediator now ran the sessions. Lisa stepped forward, carrying a data tablet. She looked at each holographic representative in turn, meeting their eyes or equivalent sense organs. Members of the council, Lisa began, her voice clear and strong. 1 week ago, 3,000 ships entered Earth's solar system with the stated purpose of preventive intervention. The real purpose was genocide. The evidence used to justify this invasion was fabricated by the Zrathi Imperium to eliminate a species they saw as a potential rival. She activated her tablet, and documents appeared on screens throughout the chamber. These are communications between Zrathi intelligence officers discussing the creation of false evidence. These are testimony from Zrathi officials who participated in the deception. And these are recordings from the Zrathi ambassador Kelvax, who openly admitted to me that the goal was to exterminate humanity before we could become powerful. Murmurs of shock and anger rippled through the chamber. Many species had sent ships to join the invasion force. Now they were learning they had been manipulated into attempting genocide. Earth had every right to defend itself, Lisa continued. We used only defensive force against an unprovoked invasion. We accepted surrenders. We treated prisoners according to the laws of war. We provided medical care even to those who came to kill us, and now we are returning all prisoners to their homeworlds, asking nothing in return. The representative from the Vrin Collective, a species that had lost 200 ships in the battle, spoke up. Ambassador Monroe, Earth's military capabilities far exceeded what you reported to this council. You hid your true strength. Is that not also a form of deception? Lisa nodded, expecting that question. Earth never lied about our capabilities. We simply didn't reveal everything. After studying the Zrathi's history, we realized they had a pattern of eliminating potential rivals. We prepared defenses while maintaining a peaceful appearance. That's not deception. That's survival. You destroyed or captured nearly 3,000 ships, another species representative said. Earth now possesses the most powerful military force in this region of space. How can we trust that you won't use that power to conquer others? Because conquest was never our goal, Lisa answered firmly. Earth wanted only to be left alone to grow and develop in peace. The Zrathi made that impossible. But even after defeating their invasion, we seek only security, not domination. We're proposing a new framework for galactic cooperation, one based on mutual respect rather than fear. She brought up another document on the displays. Earth is calling for the dissolution of the old council structure, which concentrated too much power in the hands of a few ancient species. We propose a new alliance, one where each species has an equal voice, where decisions require true consensus, and where military aggression is met with collective defense. You're asking us to create a new order with Earth at its center, the Vrin representative observed. No, Lisa corrected. We're asking you to create a new order with no one at its center. Earth will be one voice among many, but it will be a voice that can't be ignored or threatened with extinction. The session continued for hours, with representatives asking questions, raising concerns, and debating the proposal. Lisa answered each question patiently, backed by evidence and logic. She had learned from years of diplomatic experience that persistence and preparation mattered more than passion. When the session finally ended, Lisa felt exhausted but satisfied. The council hadn't made any final decisions, but she could see that opinions were shifting. Species that had feared Earth now saw them as potential allies. Species that had been bullied by the Zrathi for centuries saw an opportunity for change. Back on Earth, President Nicole Garrett faced her own challenges. The civilian population was celebrating their survival, but Nicole knew the real work was just beginning. She had called a meeting with her top advisors to discuss Earth's future direction. We have a choice to make, Nicole said, looking around the table at Kevin Ross, Amy Crawford, Ryan Hughes, Danny Chen, and Jake Patterson. We revealed our true military strength to save ourselves. Now we need to decide how we use that strength going forward. We could dominate this region of space, Amy said bluntly. Our technology is decades ahead of most species. Our tactics are superior. We could expand, take resources, build an empire. We could, Nicole agreed. But should we? Earth spent most of its history fighting itself because different groups wanted power over others. We finally moved past that. Do we really want to repeat those mistakes on a galactic scale? Ryan leaned forward. There's another consideration. Our technology advantage won't last forever. Once other species see what we've built, they'll copy it. Maybe in 10 years, maybe 20. But eventually our edge will disappear. We need to build something more lasting than military superiority. Like what? Jake asked. Like trust, Danny Chen suggested. We showed the galaxy we can win a war. Now we need to show them we can win a peace. Kevin nodded slowly. The young analyst has a point. Fear might keep others from attacking us, but it won't build alliances. We need friends, not just defeated enemies. Then that's our direction, Nicole decided. We maintain our military strength as a deterrent, but we focus on building partnerships. We share some technology, not all of it. We help species that were oppressed by the Zrathi. We prove that Earth is a force for stability, not chaos. Over the following months, Earth put that philosophy into action. The Solar Defense Fleet, as it was now officially called, began patrolling the local region of space. They stopped pirate attacks, responded to distress calls, and helped resolve disputes between smaller species. Lisa traveled constantly, meeting with leaders from dozens of worlds. She negotiated trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and mutual defense pacts. Slowly, carefully, she built a network of allies who saw Earth as a partner rather than a threat. The Zrathi Imperium, meanwhile, collapsed under the weight of its defeat. Species that had been subjugated for centuries rose up in rebellion. The Zrathi military was in ruins, unable to maintain control. Within 6 months, the once mighty empire had fractured into a dozen independent states. High Chancellor Vexthor and his closest advisors were arrested by their own people and put on trial for war crimes. The evidence Lisa had gathered proved their guilt beyond doubt. They had fabricated evidence, manipulated the council, and ordered genocide. The tribunal sentenced them to life imprisonment. 8 months after the battle, representatives from 40 species gathered at Unity Point for the founding ceremony of the Free Worlds Alliance. It was a new organization, one based on equality and mutual cooperation. Earth was a founding member, but so were the Vryn, the Krell, and even some reformed Zrathi states. Lisa stood on the stage with representatives from each founding species. Together they signed the Alliance Charter, a document guaranteeing mutual defense, free trade, and peaceful resolution of disputes. This alliance is built on a simple principle, Lisa said during her speech. No species should live in fear of extermination. No empire should dictate terms to others. We are many species, but we share one galaxy. We can either fight over it until we all lose, or we can work together and all prosper. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Trillions of beings watched as the new alliance was born, replacing the old order that had existed for centuries. Back on Earth, in a small ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery, President Nicole Garrett dedicated a new memorial. It honored the 800 Earth personnel who had died defending their world, as well as the thousands of alien soldiers who had died following orders from corrupt leaders. We remember the fallen, Nicole said to the gathered crowd. Both ours and theirs. This war should never have happened. It was born from fear, lies, and the ambition of those who valued power over life. We won the battle, but everyone lost brothers, sisters, friends, and loved ones. She gestured to the memorial, a simple wall of black stone with names carved into it, human names and alien names side by side. Let this memorial remind us that war has no winners, only survivors, and let it inspire us to build a future where such wars become impossible. Jake Patterson stood in the crowd, wearing his dress uniform. Beside him was Maria Santos, the young pilot who had become an ace during the battle. They had both been promoted and given new assignments training.